Hello and welcome to the Tech and Sports Podcast. Tech and Sports is a show about how technology is revolutionizing all of the major sports as well as health and fitness. You can find it on your podcast service of choice. My name is Alex Radu and I'm here with the extraordinary Mandy Kovacs.
Hello.
This week we discuss our picks for the most impactful tech stories coming out of the Winter Olympics thus far, plus all of the biggest news from the last week, new apps or wearables, and your weekly concussion update. But before we get to that, we would really appreciate it if you would review and rate the Tech and Sports Podcast on iTunes and Google Play or wherever else you get your podcasts from. It really does help us grow the show, and we really appreciate all of the support so far. And with that, sit back and relax because the Tech and Sports crew is entering the game. So Mandy, the news.
All right, so our first stories of the day, of course, focus on the Winter Olympics, currently underway right now in Pyeongchang, South Korea. So first up, Canadian speed skater Ted-Jan Bloemen won a gold medal last week in the long track 10,000-meter race after an Olympic record-setting performance. What's interesting is that he's the first cryptocurrency-sponsored athlete ever. He has a partnership with ONG Social and Seek VR, who will compensate him in cryptocurrency. We don't know how much he's going to get now that he's accomplished his goal of winning the gold, but I'm sure he's quite happy either way.
I really just don't understand why you would choose to get paid in something that's basically just gambling money.
I don't know. I mean, if you clock out with it, then you have money.
I know, but it's, I mean, why not just get paid with real money?
Because this is fun.
I don't get it.
I don't know. No, I don't really get the point behind it either. I mean, we covered before that hockey team or some of their athletes were being paid in Bitcoin. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, that could go all the way up. It could also crash.
Yeah, like it did, what,
like
2 weeks ago?
Yeah, like it did. So I just don't, it's like, okay, you don't need to, yeah, cryptocurrency is fun, but get paid in real money and then invest in it with that real money, not just like get paid in like potential fake money.
You should be a consultant for them. All right, next is news that the USA's luge team partnered with Stratasys to print 3D molds for customized parts that the team used in its sled prototypes. So the quick turnaround of these new molds helped the team make quicker changes to their sleds and experiment with new designs closer than ever to the start of the Olympics. They're able to print more complex shapes and traditional tooling as well, and two of the athletes actually used some of the 3D printed molds for parts on their sleds during the competition. So this whole process has been a lot more cost-effective and quick for the team, especially in a sport where incremental changes can mean the difference between a medal and being off the podium. So the USA actually won its first ever men's single luge medal in history with the silver place finish last week. So kind of seems like it's working.
It's cool that, well, I mean, this is just sports now taking advantage of what businesses have been doing with 3D printing, and that's just printing cheaper parts at, quicker turnover, everything like that. That's the benefit of 3D printing, and we're going to just see more and more types of sports doing it where it is cost-effective. I mean, like in basketball, it's not necessarily cost-effective to 3D print anything.
No.
It's not really the sport for that, but things like luge, and I'm sure there are more teams other than just the USA that's doing this as well.
Probably. Yeah, and I'm sure we'll see this a lot more in other sports. All right, now moving away from the Olympics for just a second, the NBA All-Star Game was this weekend, and not only did the NBA host its annual tech summit, but it also held 4 player-only conferences with tech companies to educate the players on business and investment opportunities in the tech world. So 21-year-old Boston Celtics Jaylen Brown led one of the events and basically described it as a tech meetup for players to chat and have their questions answered by tech executives, including Uber's chief brand officer. His Tech Hustle event was a private event for NBA players, as well as entertainers, venture capitalists, and different startups. And his goal was to educate some of the athletes and people about what's happening and how they can spend their money and really set themselves up after their careers using their tech investments.
Yeah, it's awesome that the NBA has these situations and also these players who are willing to do that. I mean, there are a lot of really famous, Hall of Famer NBA players. I mean, you look at Magic Johnson, who has made the majority of the money in his life after basketball. You look at Kobe with all of what he's doing since he's retired. You look at the entire Golden State Warriors and what they're doing in Silicon Valley now that they're there. LeBron with his media company. I mean, Jordan.
They're all in it.
Yeah, so basketball players, they make a lot of money now. Some of their contracts are hundreds of millions of dollars, and lower contracts are still millions and millions of dollars. So they're trying. It's really cool to see someone young like Jaylen Brown, who went to an Ivy League school and who is aware of all this stuff that he wants to help try and get these people set up because he's going to. So why not help everyone else as well?
Yeah, I think he has like a background in this sort of stuff, doesn't he? Like I think he studied it in school, or it was at least really into it in school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. And so sticking with basketball for one more story, the Sacramento Kings have partnered with a company called Connection Health, which has developed a sensor-based AI-powered walk-in kiosk called the iPhone of Healthcare for its ability to seamlessly integrate third-party apps with its AI platform. So these kiosks were debuted at last summer's NBA Combine, and it basically enables quick and easy health screenings for things like posture, lateral balance, and movement. So there's a virtual assistant inside the kiosk that's 10 feet tall, because obviously basketball players are tall, that really walks them through some of the evaluations, which can all be self-administered. They can be used in regular and daily checkups, or as infrequently as needed to look for signs of asymmetries and weaknesses that could lead to injuries. And so that's exactly what the Kings are hoping to use it for, to prevent injuries, improve performance and fitness in their players, as well as extend their players' careers. The company is also working on applications that would be able to measure for things like depth perception, reaction time, peripheral vision, hand-eye coordination, and memory, as well as areas like optometry, where someone could get into this kiosk and get a glasses prescription in less than 5 minutes. And so apparently beyond the Kings, there are actually 7 more NBA teams that are interested in getting on board with this tech. So again, another example of the NBA moving forward.
Yeah, the NBA is definitely the most forward-thinking professional, probably sports league, honestly, on the planet at this point. Which is really fun to see just as fans, because I think everyone wants to extend player careers. Like, that'd be awesome if, like, I want another 10 years of LeBron. Yeah. But that might not be just technology. That could be because he's an alien of superhuman quality.
We have not confirmed that he's not. So.
But, I mean, it's cool to see that the Kings are trying to do something. I mean, they have to, because they are the worst. So,
yeah,
gotta try something.
I also really like the idea that this is a kiosk too, right? Because I don't think anyone actually likes doctor's appointments. And so the fact that you can walk into a booth that I'm picturing is kind of like those airport security things that you walk through. You stand there for a few seconds while it scans you, and then you move on and it gives you all your information. Yeah. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, no, that would be really cool, especially for injuries and, again, like all those tiny little stats. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I want one. Anyways, next from across the pond, the reigning World Cup champion team, Team Germany, has pledged to work with virtual reality and augmented reality company Beyond Sports to help its players train for the upcoming World Cup, which kicks off in June. So the VR and AR services offered by Beyond Sports lets players practice in-game scenarios or tailor-made scenarios based off the team's real game data. So the training is broken down into 4 areas, including on-field decision-making, positioning awareness, specific in-game scenarios, and time-pressured training tasks. So the whole point of training like this is to increase the player's tactical knowledge as well as their cognitive reaction time. And so Beyond Sports has also been working with English Premier League teams Arsenal FC and Stoke City.
So what I love about this is that it's basically bringing the whole concept of using a video game to practice.
Yep.
Which is something that, like, players like LeBron actually uses 2K to maximize Cavalier lineups and see different things and see how different things work. And that's awesome. Like, that's super cool. I mean, it shows why he's the greatest of all time. So it's really cool to see other teams and other sports doing this, because players are already thinking about that. The best of the best are already doing stuff like this. So to actually get a real platform in which they can do that is awesome.
And we've also already discussed, too, that VR and AR, I mean, its best applications are going to be in sports training, right?
Yeah.
All right, and next we have news that current NFLer Tom Brady, former NFLer Michael Strahan, and former journalist Gotham Chopra are combining forces to launch a new multi-platform sports media startup. So they're looking for around $3 million to fund what they call a modern sports storytelling business that functions like an old school studio that tells stories in the media most appropriate to each story. So they all met about 5 years ago in LA, and they've kept in touch ever since and have been having conversations about starting a business like this for the last 5 years, and I guess now they've finally done it. There's not really much information besides this out there, and there's no timeline of when that this could be created or released, but I mean, stay tuned, because anything with Tom Brady's name on it will probably be successful. I wouldn't bet against him.
I don't know. Do we need another sports media platform? Like, what are, like, I mean, I just don't know what they would do differently than the people that are already doing well.
I don't know. They did specifically say that it's going to be different from the Players Tribune and what Russell Wilson has done with his, access-based approach.
Or, ESPN's Undefeated and all
that. But beyond saying what they're not going to be, they don't have exactly a clear view of what they want to be.
I don't know. I don't trust the TB12 method, so
I want to say that this is almost like a brainstorming activity still in announcing it this early.
Okay.
But what do we know?
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
And for some hockey news, the St. Louis Blues have signed a deal with a company called Really, which uses AI and machine learning to recognize and label plays during a game from teams' in-house live video feeds and create an automatic highlight reel that can be distributed anywhere, like the arena scoreboard, social media, or to a team's various digital mediums. So the Blues will be using this to curate better game highlights for fans, which will be shared on all of the team's social media platforms.
Well, so what I really like about this is that we always talk about how Twitter is basically vital almost to sports now. Mm-hmm. Like, whenever I'm watching a game at home, I'm always on Twitter at the same time, following along with the people I follow who are also watching that game. Mm-hmm. So it's cool that the Blues are trying to capitalize on this kind of trend when it comes to sports fandom. And, I mean, that'll help. I mean, there's so many highlights that you can throw out. And if they can do it automatically very easily throughout the game and on Twitter and afterwards and between games, that's awesome.
Right. Think of how quick we could get GIFs now.
Exactly. And hockey GIFs are great.
Exactly. And it is GIF, not GIF, for anyone wondering.
Sure.
And anyways, last but not least, YouTube has announced a partnership with Turner Broadcasting that will let it offer a wide variety of sports content. The deal means YouTube TV can now broadcast TNT and TBS basketball games just in time for the All-Star Weekend and March Madness, as well as MLB postseason games, the PGA Championship, and the UEFA Champions League. So NBA TV and the MLB Network will also be offered on this platform soon enough. And all of these come in addition to YouTube TV's previous partnerships with ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC. Although with more of this content, it also means that the cost of YouTube TV is rising from $35 to $40 a month, starting officially on March 13th. So for those sports fans who have cut the cord, this is a great alternative. And it's also cancelable at any time. So you could figuratively join for a month or two if you're a basketball fan and want to watch March Madness, for example, and then just cancel your subscription before the baseball season starts, or vice versa.
Yeah, well, so this is an awesome thing that YouTube's trying to do. Mm-hmm. I don't know how successful it's going to be. I mean, for us, we can't test it out here up in Canada.
That's true.
It is only in the U.S. Mm-hmm. But it's still interesting because we always talk about the reason, I would never cut the cord, for instance, is because the best way to watch sports is still
live TV.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the fact that YouTube is trying to get ahead of all that. And YouTube is one of the biggest video platform in the world. So, it'll be interesting to see if they find success doing this. $40 a month for all of those channels really isn't bad at all. No. So, I mean, we're going to have to see where it goes. I mean, it's all just speculation at this point.
And they did note, too, that most of the time there's about a 10-second lag between what you see on YouTube versus, the real game. But they're working on lessening that. And they did promise that they wouldn't have any more than a 10-second lag in games, which is cool.
Yeah, okay. That's right? Something.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's it for today's news. Moving on to some of our new apps and wearables.
Yeah, so for new apps and wearables, it's just 2 stories this week. So it starts with the fact that Nokia may be giving up on wearables. So basically sad news here for Nokia fans in the health and fitness world. Apparently the Finnish company is reconsidering the future of its wearables division, which it had just recently invested $191 million into it back in 2016.
Ouch.
This review includes all of Nokia's digital health offerings, including its smartwatches, fitness trackers, and smart scales. Despite its big bet on wearables, Nokia does plan to cut more than 400 jobs in Finland this year as it rethinks its business. While Nokia was never a huge player in this space, it does go to show the potential tough time wearables may have in the future. According to research firm eMarketer, wearables will only grow by about 12% in 2018, and that will drop to single digits in 2019 and beyond. And you kind of have to think that is maybe just likely because right now the market is so dominated by the very few, Fitbit, Apple, the big wearable makers, which I believe control something like 80% of the entire market. So it is not too big of a surprise to see Nokia try and find other ways.
Right, and I think we covered a couple weeks ago, too, was it Adidas that ended up closing its wearables department as well? So this kind of seems to be a trend in the market. A lot of these companies are maybe, like, scared to take on some of the giants.
Yeah, I mean, well, it might also they might be like, you know what, we can win in other ways. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see the future of wearables. I mean, they're still growing. It's just maybe not the growth that people are expecting until we really get those really big, great smartwatches of fiction that we're all waiting for.
Absolutely.
All right, and then so the last story is a new AR/VR headset called the Magic Leap 1, which is the first product from a Google-funded augmented reality startup called Magic Leap. So right now it's mostly just augmented reality and no virtual reality, but that is supposedly coming in the future. The company announced a partnership with the NBA and Turner Sports that will allow fans to interact with basketball stats through this headset. According to Magic Leap, when this headset releases later this year through the NBA app, you can summon multiple screens to see stats, replays, commentary, etc., including a life-size version of Shaq that will just kind of, I guess, hang around in your peripheral vision. Pricing is unknown right now, but I just have to wonder if anyone will actually consume sports like this. Like I'm never going to be wearing goggles while watching sports. So while these AR ideas are cool, headsets don't seem to be the best way to go just yet for this type of thing. At least, I mean, maybe if it's just stats, like if you all had this headset, you could all look at these stats and replays and like pretend you're really analyzing the sport or something like that with it. But like you're not going to sit through a 2 to 3 hour sporting event wearing a headset. Like, that's just not realistic. They're not comfortable enough for that.
But if it is AR, though, and you could watch it, for example, like on your coffee table or something, that would be pretty cool. I would deal with goggles for 3 hours.
Yeah, but it still wouldn't be better than like a 60-inch TV. That if you have spent the money on AR goggles, you most likely also have spent the money on a TV that you could watch sports on.
That's true. But also, how do they know that the one thing I wanted in my life was a life-size version of Shaq hanging around with me in my own living room?
I mean, I think that's just everyone's dream.
I think so. I would love that.
So that's the quick wearables and apps update this week. And now we're going to move on to the concussion update. Every day, a large portion of athletes with a history of repetitive head trauma are battling with a progressive neurodegenerative brain disease called CTE. Symptoms of CTE include blurred vision, dementia, depression, headaches, memory loss, and mood swings. There is no cure, and it only gets worse with time. This is the #1 issue in sports, so every week we'll be updating you on what is happening in the world of concussion prevention. So this week's concussion update revolves around the new announcement that the FDA has approved the first blood test for concussions. This comes to us via a Gizmodo article. So this FDA approval is a result of researchers trying to figure out whether or not someone has a concussion, which so far has needed various and not entirely risk-free brain imaging tests, the most popular of which is a CT scan. For the time being, CT scans have been considered the gold standard of concussion detection. This test, which is known as the Banyan Brain Trauma Indicator, tests for two proteins called the UCH-L1 and GFAP that are released into the bloodstream by the brain following a head blow that causes visible lesions to form. To test this method, blood samples were taken from 2,000 people suspected of having a concussion, and it was compared to CT scans. The test successfully predicted someone having tissue damage found on a CT scan 97.5% of the time, and if someone had none, 99.6% of the time. What this means is that doctors can reduce the number of CT scans that they give concussion patients, which could save money in the healthcare system and prevent unnecessary neuroimaging tests, which, as we said earlier, are not entirely risk-free. The test is supposedly accurate for up to 12 hours following a concussion. And if you're wondering where the tech angle is here, this is the first medical device this year to be approved through the FDA's Breakthrough Devices Program. The program allows for a faster than usual review process for what the FDA deems as low-risk medical products that have unique cutting-edge applications. With this program, start-to-finish approval could take less than 6 months. So what's really cool here is that, maybe it's not like an actual part of the technology, but this could be a better way just to deal with concussions. It's not necessarily going to prevent it, but there are crazy stats out there about the number of people who die per year due to head injuries, and the majority of which are concussions. And we all know the impact in sports, so it is really cool to see that, the FDA is actually making an effort to try and make that health process a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely like the sound of this. I mean, it doesn't say specifically how long the test takes to come back. I don't know how long blood tests really take.
It takes 3 to 4 hours.
Okay, so that's not bad. I mean, I don't think we would see this in sports sidelines at all, or on the bench. I think we still need to look for better solutions that way. And we've talked a lot about like the Sync Think 60-second eye technology, concussion prevention thing. So I don't think this is on the same level, but I mean, it works. It's great anyways.
Yeah, I think it's just an entirely different aspect of concussions that it's targeting. It's not really, it's not going to prevent it. It's not going to, like, athletes would not be using, and team doctors would not be using this method during a game. Like, it would be, they've pulled this person and it's afterwards. So maybe instead of giving someone repeated CT scans, if they just take some blood work, they can tell through that, which, again, saves money from having to use the crazy expensive equipment that is required for a CT scan. And just time. Getting blood work is a lot easier than doing a head scan.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it really just kind of, I think, tackles a different side of concussions. We're always talking about concussion prevention. And yeah, this isn't going to prevent concussions, but if it makes it easier to treat concussions, then I think that it's just as worthwhile.
Exactly. Anything that can help the symptoms of concussion, that's great. And good on the FDA for creating this program as well. Because, I mean, so many patents and it just takes so long to go through. So good on them.
Exactly. Yep. So that's it for this week's concussion update.
All right, so now we're moving on to our discussion of the day. The Olympics are in full force right now, and we at Tech and Sports have been enjoying every moment of it. I know I've basically glued to my TV from 6 to about 12 a.m. watching different events, so we're going to keep focusing on that. We're going to look at some of the coolest tech that's come out of the Olympics so far, and really what our favorite storylines are, I guess, on the tech side. Yeah. Alex, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So there was and it's not really happy news, but Olympic officials have confirmed that a cyber attack took place during the event's opening ceremonies last weekend. The television and internet access was affected for those in attendance, and the Olympic website was also down, which prevented attendees from printing out their tickets. However, it didn't affect viewers or any critical Olympic operations. But it's not the first time this happened. There were several threats in January, too, according to McAfee, which was really all around sending harmful emails to Olympic officials and, the usual virus type stuff. So while I thought this was a super impactful story, it's not flashy, like it's not, cool tech doing something cool that allows athletes to do something, but I think it does highlight a problem that all big sporting events, i.e. the future Olympics, the World Cup coming up this summer, all that sort of stuff is really important for officials to take a look at security. We always talk about, athlete or companies getting hacked and all that data being released. Well, what happens if all that happens to the Olympics, to all these athletes, to their all their health documents and all that stuff, to all the attendees who are attending? If security points are then accessed and screwed around with, it's definitely a scary thought. So hopefully by maybe bringing more awareness to something smaller like this, it does kind of maybe shock into some former future officials to maybe take a better look at it.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge future problem. And I believe some of the harmful emails that were sent back in January, they trace them back to North Korea. I mean, obviously, I guess, but also Russia, because they've been banned for the most part from these games. And that's just so interesting. Like, what if Russian hackers got into some US data, Canada data, it doesn't matter where, right? But they get all those health records, they can tamper with them, they can mess everything up.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll have to see. Security is such a big focus in the future of every single company and every single event. So it's kind of just bringing awareness to that. I think it's going to be quite impactful moving forward.
Definitely. And now on a lighter side of things, I mean, beyond how well Canada's doing, my favorite part of the Olympics so far has to be all the fun robots that South Korea has been showcasing. So we've already covered that there was a real walking humanoid robot that carried the Olympic torch during the pre-game relay, which was super neat. But in between all of the Olympic events that have been happening so far, there's also a tournament that took place called the Edge of Robots Ski Robot Challenge that, is exactly how it sounds. So there are 8 robotics teams from local research universities, institutions, and private companies that pitted their humanoid robots against each other and competed for a $10,000 prize to see whose robot could ski down the slopes and race to the finish line the fastest while avoiding obstacles. So the tournament took place on an 80-meter alpine ski course, but the super low temperatures actually froze some of the robots, and many of them tumbled down the course, which would be terrifying if it were humans, but for robots, it was apparently hilarious to watch. And so all of these robots are self-driving, and they were all wearing child-sized outfits, helmets, and skis, and had to actually look like a human to be eligible for the tournament. So they all had to stand on two legs, they all had to have working joints that look like normal elbows and knees, and they all had to be at least 50 centimeters tall, which is not huge, but, they're robots. And so they were all programmed to imitate human motion, and the smallest robot clocked in at 75 centimeters tall, and it actually won, which makes sense, I guess, if you consider a center of gravity and all of that sort of stuff. And so there's just a whole bunch of videos and pictures online of the tournament, as well as a Facebook page that even includes the stats of all the robots. There was one robot named Diana who was completed with the help of crowdfunding. And I just think this is a really cool, fun tournament that showcases how far South Korea has come in terms of technology. And really just how far technology has come in general, too, because who knew that we'd be seeing skiing robots?
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. There's really not much to say about it
I love it.
other than to add to you. It's just this is a really cool event that I really do suggest everyone look up online pictures of it and videos of it. It's just interesting and it's just wacky.
They're so funny. I love it. I love watching all of them. All right, well, that's it for our discussion today. That was our 31st episode, which is pretty incredible. Again, if you like our content, please go like it, rate, review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you listen to us. You can also follow us on Twitter. Our overall account is ITB Tech and Sports, as well as our personal accounts. I'm at Mandy V. Kovacs and Alex at Alex T. Radu. And yeah, thanks for listening to us, guys. Bye.
Thank you.